talk about iOS devices today in the presentation. So I'm going to start off with a little presentation showing how all of this works, and then we're going to do
10 seconds.
All right, let's get started. And then we'll do a podcast and we'll hang out, we'll answer questions. Welcome everyone to this StreamGeeks broadcast. We're live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And today we're going to be talking about how to embed Zoom meetings into your website. Last Monday, we talked about how to host a Zoom party, how to host a Zoom video conference call and live stream it at the same time. We also showed you guys how to host live trivia. And this was just a fun way to boost spirits and stay connected with video communications during a time when many of us are quarantined and we cannot leave our homes. So it was really timely and everyone had a lot of fun. And even right now, we've got a ton of people joining our Zoom party. So the Zoom meeting ID is just below. And I want to start by thanking you all for being here and showing you guys how easy it is to embed a Zoom video conference call into your website. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do. And then we will go ahead and do a Zoom party and a podcast together. So first of all, high level, there's two different types of really video communications. If we have like major looking at the large picture, there's public broadcasts, which is YouTube, Facebook, and then there's private meetings, Skype, GoToMeeting, WebEx, and Zoom. So with public broadcasts, you get maximum exposure on social media. So if you have a webinar, if you have a press release or a product announcement, those are usually leverage public broadcasts. But there's also private meetings that are used for small teams, information that's sensitive that only can be shared with certain people. So I want you guys to think about the way that you can use both live streaming and video conferencing together, and possibly even use breakout sessions, which Zoom video conferencing supports, so that smaller teams and groups of people can break out to have more relevant conversations. So with live streaming, obviously there's the maximum exposure on social media. But with video conferencing, you have incredible opportunity to host video calls with people all around the world. When we look at this in a little bit more detail, we're thinking, how public or private is my message? Do I have a public announcement, or am I trying to have a private webinar? And then the way you can think about it is you can have a public live stream with more private breakout sessions. Now, of course, I'd be remiss not to mention to everyone that you should always be recording your broadcasts and your videos and making sure they're available on demand, because not everyone is going to be able to watch your video live. We stopped using Zoom Webinar because live streaming was getting us 10 times as many views online than people who could show up on demand at that moment to join our webinar. So we really found that live streaming gets us more viewers, better exposure, and people and all of those videos are available on demand. So there's a lot of reasons why we went to live streaming. But now we're finding that incorporating Zoom video conference calls into our overall strategy help us to stay better connected with remote teams and folks around the world. And of course, we always use collaboration tools such as Discord and Slack to take the conversation further offline. So high level, remember that you can use video conferencing software with video production software, and therefore live stream your Zoom meetings to anywhere you'd like. But also it gives you the ability to bring Zoom video conferences higher quality production value. And what I mean by that, if you look at this Zoom production, I'm producing a high level 8-camera system with graphics and overlays and social media integrations, which I'll show in a little bit. You can see here, I can bring in social media comments directly into Zoom. So it gives us a lot of functionality for creating really high-powered webinars with Zoom. So it works both ways. And I love the breakout session functionality of Zoom, so that if you do have lots of people watching online, You could have salespeople connect with the people who are interested in sales, support people on your team introduced in private breakout sessions for people who need support. Maybe people need public relations. You get them connected with your PR department. All of these different departments and experts at your company can now have a virtual town hall, a virtual community where they can break out and you can make press releases. You can keep that communication rolling in a face-to-face video world. So, what are the steps to embedding a Zoom meeting into your website? Well, today we're going to talk about WordPress, and WordPress is the world's most popular website content management system. So it really covers most of the web. If you don't have WordPress, you're going to have to look at GitHub and look at the Zoom video conferencing integration options for any HTML website. Now, next is you're going to want to download and install the Zoom Meetings for WordPress plugin, and I'm going to show you guys where to get that. That plugin does all the coding and everything you need. So all you have to do is get your Zoom API key from the Zoom Marketplace. And that's actually quite easy to do. We can get our API credentials from marketplace.zoom.us, put them into our WordPress plugin, which I'm going to show you guys how to do today. And then we're going to take the short code that is created by the plugin, and we can put it on any page or any post of our website. So I'm really excited to show that to you guys today. We're going to publish that page, and Zoom will actually be right on our website. So it's super cool. If you go to StreamGeeks.us right now, you will see a link. This is the way we're doing it right now. It just says, join the Zoom party. And you go ahead, and right here, the Zoom video conference will be right there. Now, I actually had an issue with this. So it's saying you're unable to rejoin this meeting because I was removed by the host. That's okay. You won't get that. We had an audio issue thing that we were dealing with, so I had to do that. But go ahead to streamgeeks.us/Zoom, and you can join this Zoom call right now through the internet, through the web. And I really highly suggest doing that. Now, don't join from the website and the Zoom client, because that will cause a feedback loop. Do one or the other. So try joining and see the experience. It's really amazing. It's like the entire Zoom client directly in your website. So, by the way, I am checking comments. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask me. Again, Tess is sharing that. It's streamgeeks.us/Zoom, where you guys can try this out. And I really highly suggest doing that, because you'll really get to see, it's going to help you brainstorm why this is so powerful. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, hi, Linda. Hi, Mike. Hi, Patrick. Okay. So if you don't have a WordPress site already, you might want to create one. I was talking to my dad about this. He's creating a WordPress site just to do this. Install Zoom Meetings plugin for WordPress. And I'll show you where to get that. You get that at elearningevolve.com. So this is a really great e-learning website that developed this plugin, and they're making it available for free. So you can download it. The most recent version is 3.1.2, evolvelearning.com. So you get the plugin, and then you install the plugin. And plugins can be installed in the plugins area of your WordPress. Click the Add New button. Click the Upload button, and then you can activate your plugin. Now, once you've activated your plugin, it's going to ask you for your Zoom API. And what that basically is, it's a secure way for Zoom to say, okay, this customer of ours, this person with a Zoom professional license, is allowing this WordPress to access all of their private data about their meetings and their meeting IDs and all of that. So it's important that you do this. It's a security step, and it's not very hard to do at all. You just go to marketplace.zoom.us, you sign in, and you click the Develop button. Then you choose the JWT option. Honestly, I don't even know what JWT stands for. I think it's some JavaScript web something or other. But I just clicked it, and then literally it gives you your app credentials, and it's going to give you an API key and a secret key. And you take that information and you put it into your WordPress website. So let me show you that really quickly in more detail. This is a WordPress website. This is the StreamGeeks WordPress website. And you see that there is a Zoom meetings drop down here. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit settings. And luckily my API key and my secret key are hidden here, but this is the back end. And this is where you would copy that shortcode and paste it directly into any page on your website. So if you use WordPress, this is super simple. There's a few options for customization. You can customize it, copy that shortcode, and then where that shortcode says the meeting ID, that's where you'd want to put your custom meeting ID. So for us today, that's 363-997-150. Okay, paste the plugin with the Zoom meeting ID that you wish to embed right there. Copy that code directly into any WordPress page, any WordPress post, and click publish. And voila, your Zoom meeting will now be in your website. I am super excited about this. I think this is a big game changer for so many different use cases that are happening out there with Zoom. We're going to talk about that in a moment. You get all your access to all your webcams and cameras. Now, here's a couple of the known limitations, just so that we're getting that out there. Hi, Dan Goodman. Good to see you. Thanks for joining via LinkedIn. I am answering questions that are coming in here, guys, so let me know. Hi, Quasi. The first thing to know is that this doesn't work very well with iOS devices. iOS blocks an external iframe that's required for this to work, so it will just, and if someone has an iOS device, an iPad, or an iPhone, it'll just tell them to download the Zoom app. Not a big deal. Zoom Webinar does not work with this. This is just for Zoom meetings. Now, I'm thinking about churches here, but there's also many other applications. Most churches have less than 200 members. So it's not a problem. Every single member of the church should be able to join the website where this is installed and not have to worry about downloading a Zoom client on every single computer that they have. Also, the add-on only supports the features that are supported in Zoom, the Zoom's web version. So we've noticed a few things. You can't request camera control the way you can in a normal Zoom client. It doesn't support the green screen virtual backgrounds that is so popular. It also doesn't support breakout sessions either. So just a few things, and I see people want to ask some questions in our Zoom party. So I'm ready to open it up to the Zoom party. That's the full presentation. What do you guys think? Jeremy, how's it going? Thanks for joining the Zoom party.
Guys, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
So what do you think, Jeremy? What has this got your video production expert mind thinking?
I'm just trying to figure out. So as you guys all know, I do a lot of streaming for my church, and we're trying to figure out how to implement some Zoom for interactivity, because the church body, we know, is really suffering from the fellowship and talking to each other. So I'm just trying to figure out good ways to do this and implement it for some of our services, and I love the idea of embedding it right in the website.
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of churches obviously also struggle on the website side of things. They hire a developer, they're not sure who, if they have WordPress or not. But I would say most churches probably are using WordPress, and this plugin makes it super simple to do that. Most churches, I think I read 98% of churches, I can't remember exactly, have less than 200 members. So a basic Zoom Pro license for $15 a month allows you to have 300 viewers. So I really like the idea of churches still streaming to YouTube and Facebook, but if they're using Wirecast, they use the external camera feature and the external microphone feature to bring their production into Zoom, so that before, during, and after the worship service, families can get together in a kind of a Brady Bunch style you'll think this is funny, but kind of something like this, you know?
Nope.
So everyone's kind of getting together, and everyone's learning how to use Zoom these days. So it's interesting. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining. What do you guys think? What do you think, Tess? My trusty co-host.
I had to unmute myself. I think it's a great idea.
Cool.
To include people in your presentation, whether it's for House of Worship or just community engagement. And yeah, taking away steps. Always a good thing in my book.
So Julia, I know that you do the marketing for an e-commerce company, conferenceroomsystems.com. Have you thought about this from an e-commerce perspective? Because I know that a lot of people who go to an e-commerce website, they're just browsing, and they're not necessarily getting A, all the information that they need, and B, ready to really make a purchase decision. So what do you think about, and now of course, before this, you could always have like hey, sign up for a meeting or click a Zoom meeting, but this would actually put the Zoom meeting on the website. What do you think about this from a e-commerce perspective?
Well, again, it takes away an extra step. So it makes it that much easier. And especially during these times, we're seeing our products really sort of flying off the shelves. So as a way to kind of provide an update in more of a real-time scenario, because right now, we're really struggling to figure out our inventory numbers and everything, because things have changed so rapidly in the last 2 weeks with everything being shut down because of COVID-19. So this would just provide another dimension for communication that I think is amazing.
Yeah, and it's very I also think this would be big for education, and I'll explain why. Many teachers have open office hours, right? Where they're available to students from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., every day. And students know that they can walk into the teacher's office and they'll be there for them. A lot of teachers have been starting to do that virtually. In fact, they have to do that virtually right now because they are at home. So a lot of teachers have like Zoom conferences that are like an open Zoom room where anyone can join and they can get face-to-face communication and have questions answered by, from their teacher. Now, I could see that this would help possibly if somebody if a teacher had a landing page for the course, or a landing page, a website for their course that people could join. Now, I will say, and Julie, I know we talked about this a little earlier, with education, you really want to have like a password. You really want to have that like waiting room feature that Zoom has enabled. This might not be the best solution for a school, because you don't really want to open up everything that you're doing to the public. And it goes back to that slide that we were talking about. How public or private is your content? And this is something we're going to go back to, I think, over and over and over again. This makes the Zoom meeting much more public, which I'm a big fan of, from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, from an e-commerce perspective, from a business to consumer perspective. I really like that. And any business that's kind of open for people to speak to, that's kind of the modern age, right? Like if you look at what's happening today, consumers feel like they have the power now to reach out on social media, right? Directly to a manufacturer and get a question answered. It's kind of removed what used to be kind of like secrets that could be hidden from a manufacturer. Now everything's exposed. And this is just the next evolution that we're all learning how to adapt to, is can we make our organizations available to consumers directly through our website, so they don't even have to pick up the phone, right? They don't even have to leave the website.
Another great use case for this, I believe, Paul, would be especially right now where companies need to interact with the media. Everything is being, closed off from that face-to-face communication. So what a great way, my background, I was a former reporter. So what a great way to bring information directly to like a press conference in a Zoom meeting. So you're
Yeah.
no longer going to the company location or a courthouse or what have you for a particular press conference. You can do it through Zoom, and reporters can ask their questions right there through that exchange. So
That's the
that would be
perfect example, because that example is something that's public, right? A press release, a press conference, a live event happening, something where you want live viewers. This also works for small events that might want to sell access to their event, because you can password protect Zoom meetings. So there's the public side, and then obviously Zoom is the master of the private side, right? Zoom has always been a tool designed for private meetings. So now you have the ability to kind of put the access directly on your website, but have that full control over who gets muted and who gets moved and who gets access and who gets invited and who doesn't. And now I'm looking for more integration on the live streaming side. Like Jeremy, I'd love to see Wirecast integrate an option to receive Zoom messages and integrate them into the titling system. I think that is going to be something we see on the live streaming side come to the video conferencing side.
Yeah, and I have several customers that that I set up, and their whole workflow is Wirecast into Zoom, and then and these are huge corporate customers, so for them it's not a big deal to have 5 laptops lined up next to them, and where they have a each of their head senior leadership team is pinned in a separate Zoom call coming in. Then they run that through an audio mixer into Wirecast, and they're able to then switch those feeds. And so I'm trying to figure out ways where we can hopefully talk to Zoom at some point and get an NDI output in like NDI integration with Zoom, where we're able to pull specific video feeds out of a Zoom into platforms like OBS or Wirecast or vMix or something like that, because that would open up the possibilities even more. But it really steps up the game, kind of like what Julia was talking about, how you can then use that with corporate branding. So like if I have my Wirecast virtual camera on, then I could roll in graphics, and I could title myself and all that while sending it into a Zoom call like this.
Well, and Jeremy, we briefly went over this. So I do want to spend a little more time on it, because I know we get a lot of questions about this. One thinking that Jeremy's explaining is to capture the Zoom conference and bring it into Wirecast, bring it into vMix, bring it into OBS. That could be done with an NDI capture software, which is free and available for Mac and PC, or it can be done with an HDMI output from your laptop using an HDMI to USB capture card, or it can be done with 2 monitors. One has Wirecast, one has Zoom, and Wirecast just does a capture of the Zoom conference. Now, I'm doing that right now, and I would explain there's one more piece to the puzzle, which is the virtual audio cables. So I'm also pumping the audio from my video production software into Zoom so that you can hear me right now. And then I'm taking the audio output from Zoom and bringing it back into my video production software so that I can hear you. So it's a little complicated, but I wanted to explain that. And then on the flip side, what Jeremy is explaining is that his customers are using Wirecast and pumping it back into Zoom, so that, because Zoom doesn't really, and I don't think ever really will, have a lot of the graphical overlays and titles and lower thirds and switching capabilities that you can have with a software like Wirecast using a virtual webcam output. And then finally, Jeremy, where I was pushing you forward is to ask the engineers at Wirecast to integrate Zoom chat the same way that you have integration for Twitter and Facebook comments. Right, so that you could just read them in one single platform. So if a pastor is streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom, they just see them all in one place, and then they can highlight those messages and put them up on the screen. kind of like the way I'm doing this right here, where Bill Dawson's saying, yes, I get it. But Paul's graphic was showing Wirecast, vMix, and OBS being imported into Zoom. That's correct. In that way, we are outputting vMix, Wirecast, XSplit, OBS using a virtual webcam, a virtual output of Wirecast, and using that as our webcam input in Zoom, if that makes sense. That's why I wanted to spend a little bit more time on that. And then Dennis is asking, any thoughts on Dante audio in Wirecast or vMix or OBS? This would be very helpful using audio mixing in and out. What do you think about that, Jeremy? Do you have any answers there?
Oh yeah, I get a lot of customers who are using Dante audio into Wirecast now. I'm sure more and more people will start seeing that also. But I know I know a couple people have talked about the marriage of NDI and Dante in some instances. But Dante audio with Wirecast, I know specifically, I can just speak to that because it's what I know the most, is you just do the virtual sound card on for Dante, be able to pull in that Dante feed and use the virtual sound card as an input source into Wirecast, and then you can send or receive any of that audio that you're sending. You know, probably most people are using that X32, the Behringer X32 console at their church. So they pull in that audio feed, a Dante feed from that X32 into the virtual sound card. And I think that virtual sound card is like $50. So you install that on your Wirecast streaming computer. You can route the audio again right into Wirecast that way.
Well, I'd love to get some more questions from our Zoom party. Because I know there's a few of you, I think, that have some questions. And then we're going to do a group podcast. So everybody's going to be on the podcast. We're going to record it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Does anyone from our Zoom meeting want to introduce themselves and tell us where they're from and maybe a question? Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Paul. My name is Kwesi. I'm calling from Ghana, and I'm into live streaming. Yeah, I'm into live streaming also. So I love using vMix. Recently, I've started creating lower text in GT graphics for my clients. It's exciting, and I'm hoping to learn more about Zoom. I also I introduced Zoom to a dancing class where they use Zoom to teach the kids are currently at home. So they do Zoom meeting for the dancing classes, and it's pretty exciting.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, you're going to be able to learn a lot more about Zoom and all the video production software that we support. Don't forget to subscribe to the StreamGeeks. We got a lot of new stuff coming out, especially regarding Zoom. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Sure.
Hi, Paul and Tess.
Hi.
Thanks for this. I'm from the UK, and I look a bit funny in a wheelchair because I'm paralyzed from here down. But I run an academy, which is obviously behind like a membership area. And one of the most difficult things is getting the members into Zoom calls. A lot of them don't like video, they don't like to be part of it. So I see this as a huge opportunity to show them what it's like and introduce them to it, to get them over into the Zoom call. Because at the moment, there's a disjoint between the website and the members area and the Zoom calls. So I see this as a great opportunity for that. My question, can we choose who goes on video? So do we have how much control do we have what shows on the website?
Well, my question to you really quickly is your website powered by WordPress?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Okay. So first of all, starting there is a plugin that will make this super easy for you. If your website was something else, you'd have to do some custom coding. And I'd say, if you're not a C++ expert, stay away, right? It'll take you a lot of time. But if you have WordPress, you can install the plugin and it's beautiful. Now, as the meeting owner, as the host of the meeting, you have full control over who gets to show video and who doesn't. So right now, in fact, I did this with Julia and Tess, is that I actually see on the right-hand side, there's the participants in the meeting. There's a few options in there. One is you can mute them. You can turn their video off. You can actually request that they add video. Okay, hi, thanks for joining. But you cannot change, as far as I know, the layout that goes to the web. Okay, it's just like the Zoom meeting client, where they're going to have the ability to do a full screen. They're going to have the ability to, pin video and stuff like that, but they can't, you are in master control. So you can lock the meeting. You can also have a waiting room where if somebody joins, you have to approve them before they get in. So you have a lot of control. That's why I think this is such a great solution from Zoom, because you really do have so much control.
Thank you.
I think with that, if I may add something there, Paul, I've been doing a lot of research for this for my daughter's school, because my daughter's a junior in high school, and so she's really missing the interactivity with friends, and she's using it for school and with friends and everything like that. And so I've had to do a lot of research for her school, trying to learn this stuff. And I think there's a way, how Zoom automatically highlights who's ever speaking. If I remember correctly, there's a way to turn that off, which then gives the host more control to pin who they want highlighted on the video, because natively Zoom is going to enlarge and pin who's ever speaking or wherever the audio is coming from.
Yeah, an important thing to know there is when you pin the video, that's just for you. That's you personally pinning a piece of like a post on your own wall. When you spotlight a video, that's something only a host can do, and you're spotlighting that video for everyone.
That's good to know. I didn't realize that part.
When you open the hood of Zoom, it's incredible, and we haven't even gone over the stuff that you can change on the back end as the host owner, which we won't have time to do today, but maybe in a subsequent video, because last Monday it was Zoom parties and live trivia. This Monday, it's embedding all of that onto your website. Give me another week and we'll figure out how to take this to the next level. Is there anyone else who wants to introduce themselves and ask a question before we get to the podcast?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Hans. I'm from Ghana.
Hi, Hans.
And I've been following the show for quite some time now, and actually quite new to Zoom. I'm looking to integrating it with my church for the next couple of weeks as we also on lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So nice meeting everyone.
Well, it's nice to hear from you. This Thursday, April 2nd, we will be hosting the Worship Summit Live. And that's something that I think is worth sharing really quickly here, is that Worship Summit Live is going to be a full day of education for church streaming, where you can watch live and engage and connect. And we're going to have musical performances from Christian bands all around the world. And this is going to be this Thursday. So sign up and get tickets if you haven't already. You can get tickets for free on Eventbrite. And we've got, I think, 12 awesome speakers who are going to be teaching us about different ways to use live streaming and video production for their churches. And then we'll also be having, and this is one of the things I think is so awesome and churches can learn from, is we'll also be having Zoom breakout sessions. So yes, we'll be live streaming the entire conference to YouTube and Facebook, because we expect hundreds and hundreds of people, to thousands of people to be watching. But if you want to get face-to-face communication and ask questions to our expert panelists, you can join the Zoom breakout sessions the way we're doing now with Zoom video conferencing. And I really think that this is going to be a great way for churches, especially during Easter, where they really want to stay connected with their community. It's a great way to get families together, talking, and helping them support their local church, even if it's not in-person donations, but possibly online contributions as well. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be this Thursday in just 3 days. All right, guys. Well, we're going to jump into our podcast. We've never done this before. Are you ready to start it, Tess?
Yeah. Sure. I will go ahead and begin recording in about 5 to 10 seconds.
All right, let us know. You guys are all invited to join the podcast and be part of this podcast. So thank you for being here. I'm going to lay down a little bit of the intro and then we're going to go. You ready, Tess?
Recording now.
All right. Hello and welcome to the StreamGeeks podcast. Today we are talking about how to host a virtual Zoom party, live stream it, and then embed it into your website. Due to the coronavirus and the outbreak, we actually haven't done any podcasts in a couple weeks. So today we're hosting a live Zoom party. We've got almost 20 participants in our Zoom room. Folks are watching online, and we're about to start the podcast. Let's do it. You guys ready?
Welcome to the Post-Show Podcast with your hosts, Paul Richards, Tess Protesto, and Michael Luttermoser. Let's talk shop.
All right, guys, we're going to get through this lockdown together. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's lay down what we've been talking about today. So last Monday, we talked about how to live stream a Zoom party. And Zoom published a really great blog on how to kind of keep the Zoom bombers away and how to lock your meeting and how to kind of control your meeting as a host. And then we talked about how to have live trivia in your Zoom conference. We used CrowdPurr, but there's other solutions like Kahoot, where you can host live trivia and you can educate your online audience and you can kind of keep them engaged in a fun online way. The next thing we talked about today is how to embed your Zoom video conference onto your website. And we've actually got a couple people here who have online exclusive training websites that are run and powered by WordPress. There's an awesome new plugin for WordPress that allows you to embed Zoom video conferences directly into WordPress. We have over 20 people with us here in this Zoom party. So we're going to try to keep this podcast fun. Tess is my co-host. She's going to mute anyone who is unmuted that isn't talking or doesn't need to be talking, because we're going to try to keep this podcast fun. But I want to start by asking Julia, who I know is here. Julia, she is a marketing manager for an e-commerce company called conferenceroomsystems.com. And I asked her, I said, what is it like to have an e-commerce company? And what are you thinking about embedding Zoom video conference into that website? How would that help your experience? What are your thoughts, Julia?
Well, Paul, it's a great question. And in light of everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks with COVID-19 shutting everyone down, our particular products, because they are so popular for people who want to do video conferencing, they're literally flying off the shelf. So wouldn't it be great to be able to integrate a Zoom video conference meeting right onto our website so we can kind of update people almost in, maybe multiple times a day even, because it's sort of hard to keep up with all of that. And it's a great way to be public facing and to share information in, almost real time.
Yeah, another one of our friends here in our live Zoom party that we have going on was talking about, he's a teacher, right? And he has a premium website where he likes to interact with folks. And he's been asking them to join Zoom conferences so that he can have better interactivity with his online audience. Yet a lot of people don't know how or want to join something where you have to download another software onto your computer. You have to learn a new application. Everybody knows you get too many applications on your computer and then it just stops working. I mean, hopefully those days are over. But by embedding Zoom video conferencing onto your website, it eliminates that barrier. People can go directly onto your Zoom meeting without having to download any software at all. I don't know if you could tell us a little bit about that. I forget what your name was on the Zoom call here, but I'd love to know more about what you're thinking about how to use Zoom video conferencing embedded onto your website.
Yeah, it's the Inner Peace Academy. So it's a lot of meditation, a lot of coaching, and a lot of helping them But a lot of people in this kind of field, they're not that brilliant with technology. So they fear videos, especially like my age group and all that. We didn't grow up with videos and all that. So getting them on Skype is hard enough. But embedding it on the website so they can see it before they're joining. They don't have to download anything like you said, Paul. And it just eases them into it rather than you've got to join this Zoom call, because you join it and then you're faced with, do you join with audio? Do you turn your video on? It's just eases them into it rather than all that fear of, well, what's going to happen? What am I going to say? Do I have to have my video on? They can actually see what's happening before going into the Zoom call. Because I didn't know what was happening on this Zoom call. I got an email from you guys. I was like, oh, what's that? They're inviting me. And I didn't know what was going on till I was here. Whereas if I seen it on the website, I could go, oh, I understand that. Okay, yeah, I'll join that. I'm part of this. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. And Zoom is so simple once people take the plunge and jump into it. They're like, what was I worried about?
Well, one thing I wish was easier was the ability to put Zoom video conferences on your website. Today, we did a full presentation on how to do it. If you have a WordPress website, there's a plugin that makes it super simple. And if you have another type of website, you might have to do some custom HTML and computer programming to get it onto your website. So hopefully that's something that Zoom will make better. I've spoken to Eric Yuan about WebRTC, which is basically the web-based video conferencing standard that Google Hangouts uses and other WebRTC solutions use. And he always told me, Paul, it's not powerful enough yet. WebRTC doesn't give us the features that we're trying to use to bring Zoom to the world. And that was, 2015, 2016, maybe 2017. Here we are in 2020, and it seems like WebRTC is powerful enough now to at least be a gateway into Zoom, where Zoom can provide exactly what you're seeing here. All the people on the screen, a screen share button, people can join the meeting with audio and video. It doesn't have every single feature that you have in the Zoom client, right? Like you can't do the virtual webcams or virtual backgrounds. You can't record directly to your computer. You can only record to the cloud. But it's enough, as you said, to get folks who are just browsing a website to join a video conference. And once you get them past that step, you probably do want them to get the app on their phone or the app on their computer because they'll get a better experience. But the experience is not bad. And to think about how much of a game changer this is for the world, just think about how many people are on the internet right now. This is more than just one app in an app store. Now, Zoom is the #1 app in the app store, which is nice, right? Everyone's using it. Everyone knows what it is now. But think about those websites like NewYorkTimes.com or big websites that might be having press releases, that might be having really important things going on. They can now embed a Zoom conference directly into their website. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to these websites every day. If the Zoom meeting is right there for them and they can watch it, that is a game changer. Now,
I think
go ahead.
I just love to add what Stephen was talking about, the difference between, getting an email and deciphering that or waiting for that versus going right to the website. Especially now, if you're interested, like I had a funny charge hit my credit card and I went to the charging entity. I went right to their website, directly. So right now, I've also noticed that like email clients like Gmail, they're, if you want to do a mass email to a group of people from your company, right now, a lot of the Gmail clients are not getting those emails because I think there's something happening on the back end with everything from COVID-19. So this would be another great way. If you're interested in hearing an update from a company, you're likely going to go directly to that company website. So it's right there. You don't have to wait for an email to come through or anything like that. You're literally going right to the source. So
yeah, and I'm so glad you said that. And I see there's a question that I want to get to in a second there. Tess we have a whole chat room there. Please ask your questions and we're going to get to that in a second. But Julia, you're so right that websites are the front door to businesses and organizations around the world. I can't understate how valuable it is to get a Zoom meeting onto your homepage or a specific page on your website. This is going to reduce the barrier to getting face-to-face. It's easier than picking up the phone, right? Everybody's televisions, computers, smartphones, they all have microphones and video and cameras built into them. So you go to that website, no need to download any software, any apps. Boom, you are in. Now, there's one other thing for the podcast listeners I want to brush up on, because we actually have Jeremy Kloosterman from Wirecast here. And I see your question. I want to get to it in just 1 second, but I want to briefly recap of what we're seeing with video production software merging with video conferencing software. And last Monday, our live show was about how to host a Zoom party and how to have live trivia and how to integrate it with social media and live stream that entire Zoom party to YouTube and Facebook. So it's very easy to do. You can bring your Zoom video conference, capture your Zoom video conference software and bring it into video production software for live streaming like Wirecast, vMix, OBS, and XSplit. And then on the other side, you can pump, like I'm doing, you can pump creative, awesome video from vMix, Wirecast, or XSplit back into Zoom. So that's something a lot of people don't realize that they can do, but Zoom can be augmented and made better and optimized for the viewer experience. And my mind has been like thinking about this like all weekend. I was like, man, I could have a Zoom video conference embedded onto my website, and I could be streaming my Zoom meeting to it and have like a virtual me standing there that's just playing on loop saying, welcome to my website. If you have any questions, call this number. I mean, the possibilities here are really astounding. But Jeremy, can you just tell us a little bit about what your customers are doing? I see your hand. I want to get to your question, but really quickly, Jeremy, this whole idea of video production software going into Zoom, and then on the flip side, Zoom being used inside video production software, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, again, so I have a couple of corporate customers who, a setup just like this would be taking and pinning your video or whose ever video that's speaking at the time, capturing that video into their Wirecast setup, and then broadcasting that out to their live stream or feeding it back in, just as you're doing right now, feeding it back into a Zoom call. So one of my customers specifically, they do their corporate all hands meetings, and they have 20,000 Zoom users on a Zoom call. So they're pushing out, this presentation to 20,000 employees across the world, and doing this exact setup where they're bringing in the virtual camera from Wirecast, which would be the production output, and feeding that back into Zoom with WebRTC or the virtual camera. And then you have that ability, like I said, to capture specific highlighted or pinned videos from different participants into the Wirecast document for mixing. So I can then control who's being seen at what time.
Yeah, it gives you so many amazing functionalities and integrations. I want people to start wrapping their heads around that. That's what we talked about the last week. Now we're going way advanced, and we're talking about taking that entire Zoom experience and embedding it onto your website. Now, I know we had another person with a question there. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question? Thank you for waiting so long.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm Jeff Stansfield from Esports Circus. Another reason, actually, that we recommend a lot of our clients use websites and embed and always embed our players on the websites is because you can collect more analytics and data from the users. So and it's also branding. So we do a lot of virtual conferences, especially these days, and we're actually doing a big House of Worship conference for esports players. And we're collecting metadata, and we're able to then give the people who are coming to our conference a lot more, a lot more services, because we're able to know who they are more, know what they want to do more, and we're able to do it. Also, we don't embed a Zoom player on our websites. We actually go through another service called Wowza, which is a streaming platform that will allow us to actually embed not only Zoom Zoom conferences, but also Skype. So some people may not want to do Zoom, or may not have it set up or like that, but may they have Skype or something else. So it enables people to actually get the information and get to the conference with a lot with different systems, because not everyone uses Zoom, even though it's big these days.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Jeffrey, because from an SEO perspective, which is something that's so important to almost every business today, you want traffic to your website. That is a key signal to Google and Bing from an algorithmic perspective that people are on your website. In fact, one of the key things to SEO is how much time do people spend on your website, right? And bounce rates are incredibly important. And that's how they calculate bounce rates. Do people leave within 30 seconds of visiting to your website, or do they stay for an hour watching an embedded player on your website, or do they stay for a half-hour Zoom meeting because that Zoom meeting is in your website? So from an SEO perspective, this is like when I remembered when I first learned that when you live stream to YouTube, and then your YouTube video, when it's published, it has all of the views, and the view time that's accumulated over your live stream is accredited to your your YouTube video. So therefore, it has a boost in the algorithm and it gets out to more people via live streaming as opposed to just posting a video. It's the same type of thing, but now we're looking at it from a Google SEO perspective. And then you mentioned demographics and things of that nature that come through Google Analytics. So by getting everyone to go to your website, it's good for SEO, it's good for business. You can use all of those analytics. Now, Zoom does have some decent analytics, and you can use Zoom webinars as a lead capture tool. You can, make sure that people give you their emails to register for your webinars. But this is a game changer. This combines the power of Google and SEO and website optimization with the power of video communications by embedding the entire Zoom client into your website, making access to face-to-face video communications that much easier. And it includes all of the powerful tools that Zoom gives you as a meeting host for managing your meetings, setting up passwords, having a waiting room so that random people that you don't want can't get in. It really gives you the best of everything that the world has to offer when it comes to combining video communications with online, website optimization. So you hit the nail on the head. And, you mentioned an event. So Julia mentioned an e-commerce website, or a website that has a press release, a public news broadcast is perfect for that. And then, Jeff mentioned an event, right? Something that's live, something that you want to get to as many people as possible. I really like the idea of incorporating Zoom meetings like we're doing now, where more and more people have the ability to be part of the broadcast and get the face-to-face communications that they crave, especially at a time when we're all at home and we can't go to the events and get the face-to-face communications that we're used to. This is more than just a stopgap. Zoom is saying in a press release today that, remote work is here to stay. We're all forced to use the technology. We're forced to see the benefits. And when we get back to work, we're going to go back to our offices. We're going to go back to, attending church services at church. But this is going to be a major change in the way that we look at video communications, and businesses around the world are going to start to say, these live streams aren't such a bad idea. Having people work from home actually works. And because we were forced to use it, now, necessity is the mother of invention. By making it necessary, we've invented new ways to be more productive. The coronavirus is not going to stop productivity. Business continuity is going to continue. Yes, we're having a major economic hit from it, which we don't need to get into in this webinar, in this podcast. But, the productivity side of it is very interesting. And I love to see the new innovations happening in this industry. I'm seeing some of you guys join and using virtual backgrounds with Zoom. Tess, are there any questions coming in that you think we should be answering from social media, from places like YouTube and Facebook?
Yeah, I've seen this one a few times, both in the Zoom chat and on social media. Do you need a paid or pro or certain version of Zoom account to be able to have access to embed it onto your website?
So that is a great question. And when you start using Zoom video conferencing for embedding a meeting onto your website, you're going to want the professional version for a couple reasons. Okay. The free version of Zoom will give you unlimited one-to-one communications. So just like FaceTime, you can call your grandmom and you can talk to her for as long as you want, totally for free. But as soon as you add that second, third, fourth, fifth person into that meeting, you will get a 45-minute time limit in the United States. Now, Zoom actually removed that time limit in China, which was interesting because he didn't do that in the US now that the coronavirus is here. But anyway, because if he did that, I think he'd lose all of his customers. But, basically, you can use Zoom with the free license. You can go to the marketplace, and I believe you do not need to have a pro license to start that marketplace and get that API, but you're going to be restricted on the communication with the app to that 45 minutes. Which if you're going to go through all of the hassle of integrating all of this into your website, you might as well get the pro license. But, if you just need to have one-to-one communications, I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I've had where I accidentally didn't log into my host account and I got cut off after 45 minutes. Definitely get the Zoom Pro license for $15.
Also, is there a name for the WordPress plugin that do
yes.
you know?
Yes, there is. And I want to share this with everyone. So if you're listening on the podcast or you're getting this from online, it's shared in our guide, and we have a free guide. If you look at the video links below, or if you go to StreamGeeks.us and look at the blog post, you can download this whole guide for free, which has all of the links. So on PTZ Optics and on StreamGeeks, this guide is available, but the plugin is available. It is called Zoom Integration with WordPress. So if you Google Zoom Integration with WordPress, you're going to get it. And it's super great if you're a WordPress user, which most of us are. I know all of my websites are pretty much WordPress. You just need to go through the process that we explained about getting your API and integrating it with WordPress. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, Richard, I would like to ask a question. This is Dami. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Yeah, please. I want to ask about the integration. I don't know what's planned that Zoom have to integrate with SRT, integration of SRT into Zoom.
SRT. So SRT is, and we're going to wrap up this podcast in just a second. So Tess, I'll give you the cue on that, and then we'll continue our Q&A. But I'll answer this last question because it doesn't really, integrate into the conversation we were having so much. But SRT stands for Secure Reliable Transport. And that is a streaming protocol that is really a game changer. It allows people to remotely receive and send video over the public internet at low, and this is the important part, fixed latencies, allowing you to remotely switch multiple cameras that are sent over from anywhere in the world directly to your production desk. So it's a very much a game changer. It's now supported in vMix, and there are ways to use vMix as a bridge to receive SRT and then use the external feature to pump that into Zoom if you would like. The last thing I'll say about that, we're going to wrap up the podcast and then we'll answer some more questions. But Zoom itself is very low latency. So it is almost like a phone call. I mean, you are literally having a real-time connection with someone online who's on your website right then and there. It's not like YouTube and Facebook that use content delivery networks that can be up to like 30, 45 seconds latency, like late from, there's just builds up this buffer of latency. Zoom always stays real time, and it's incredible how well it works. I was testing it today, and I was just like, wow, this is really, really good. So learn more at StreamGeeks.us and look at our blog. There's a whole tutorial on how to set up a Zoom conference, how to embed it onto your website. We are going to end the podcast there, and then we will stay on for questions in just a second. So let me just play this outro clip. A little ghetto, but we're going to do it.
Welcome to the post-show podcast with your hosts, Paul Richards, Tess Protesto, and Michael Luttermoser. Let's talk shop.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, everybody. I hope that you're being safe and staying at home during this important time for everyone to practice social distancing. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next Monday with another awesome podcast. Take care. All right, the podcast is over. All right, more questions. If there are, I'm happy to answer them.
Hey guys.
Hi.
It's Trev from Glasgow. How you doing?
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, cheers Paul, cheers Tess. I've been following you guys for about a year odd, and you're doing really good stuff. I loved your podcast, signed up really early for that. You're amazing. Superstars.
Trevor from Scotland?
Yeah, we're just based in the East End of Glasgow. I run a live streaming company called Blue Star Streaming. We kind of specialize in, well, all different kinds of streaming, like whiskey tastings we've done globally. We kind of do large event streaming. We stream for the Scottish BAFTAs in Scotland, so we do the streaming for that, down to small stuff that we do for a couple of charities and all of that as well. But I suppose I've been streaming for about 15 odd years. Before YouTube and Facebook were doing it. We were doing it through sat trucks and stuff like that when it was really expensive and really hard. Used to do a couple of wee things for Iron Maiden, the band. They were kind of into it really early. But I've seen it evolve all the way. But the game changer was YouTube, Facebook, and all of that stuff kicking in. But we, over in Glasgow, because we're all isolated, we do quite a lot of stuff for bands, right? So I've been inundated by bands on how to monetize or how to take donations. And like yourselves, what you're seeing, everybody's adopted Zoom. So yeah, the WordPress thing I think is great for embedding. We use a lot of WordPress as well. And I think what penny drop for me is you could crowd gather everybody on one page, put a donate button underneath, so the donate button's there, and focus people to buy merch underneath it as well, maybe.
Yeah.
But my question would be, as always when I'm doing bands, is how would you get like a mastered mix XLR output from like a band's mixing desk into Zoom? Is that possible?
Well, first of all, I want to mention that I just wrote a new book called The Virtual Ticket. And so it's all about selling virtual tickets. How do we monetize live streams and get people to charge for virtual tickets? And there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this. You can have a Patreon. You can have a private Facebook group that you charge for access to. Again, that's totally free. Doesn't cost any money to live stream to a private Facebook group, as opposed to using Dacast or Vimeo, which is expensive. Yet I really like Vimeo because Vimeo has the ability to, you can have subscriptions, and there's a lot of great ways to monetize live streams. And that's why I wrote The Virtual Ticket. Now, regarding getting audio into Zoom, what live streaming software do you use?
Okay, so I normally use Wirecast.
Okay. Now, Wirecast, do you have all of the audio that you need in Wirecast?
Yeah. When I do bands, I bring them in as a mixed feed and take it in as an XLR. And I normally use an ATM switcher, or I've got a Panasonic switcher, which is a smaller, more mobile one that I use, and that takes RCA inputs as well. So we mix from that. Yeah.
So and are you using Windows or Mac?
Everything on the Mac is iMacs, really fast.
Okay.
High spec iMacs. Yeah.
So on the Mac side, I have to say I am not sure. Okay, I think I have an idea, but I don't use Mac, so it's gonna be hard for me. In Windows, there's a software called Virtual Audio Cables. And if you think about it, it's literally like an audio cable, but it's just in your computer. It's a driver. So you can select an output bus for an audio output bus from Wirecast and just go to this virtual audio cable. And then in Wirecast, you can select that virtual audio cable as your microphone, your input into Zoom. Now, on the Mac side, I know there's a virtual audio cable solution. I forget what it's called. I think it's called Soundflower.
I think the one that we use, you can download either for Mac or PC.
Really?
Okay, cool.
I thought so, but it's been a long time.
So what you need is a virtual audio cable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's what you need there. But yeah, my hat's off to you. Congratulations. You know, I think that you have to get this book. And the reason why I write these books, it's not
buy
just
that tonight.
Yeah, pick it up, get it on Amazon, get a couple of copies. You can get it for free on our website. But the reason why I write these books, and it's the same thing of why I wrote Helping Your Church live stream, is that get a copy for the band. And I know a lot of bands that they might not be big readers, but just highlight a couple chapters for them. Put some Post-it notes in here and be like, read this chapter, read this chapter, and read this chapter. Because then they're better educated on what you're trying to teach them. If you're trying to get them to do a private Facebook group and use Patreon to charge monthly for access to that private Facebook group, have them read chapter 5, and then everyone's kind of speaking the same language. And it's much easier to teach people about the technology that we're trying to help them use.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. That's good info. I like that.
All right, guys. Well, we're running up on our hour limit here. Does anyone have any other final questions that we can help you with?
Yeah. I just want to add a contribution yesterday. So I was able to do a training with one of my friends that stays in UK yesterday. So we're actually using Zoom for a training section. So with Premiere Pro. So I was able to train him on how to use Premiere Pro, and it was a wonderful experience. Low latency, there's no buffering, everything was smooth. Very, 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 very fine.
Yeah, Zoom is great that way. It's real time, which allows for a lot of great things to happen. It can be really annoying when YouTube is 45 minutes late. Tess and I are trying to draw a giveaway winner. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do that, and the chat's a minute behind. Now, there are ways to reduce latency on YouTube and Facebook, but there's trade-offs as well. Like, for example, if you try to record a Zoom meeting, the video quality, it's not that great. If you record a vMix or a Wirecast production with 100 megabits per second or 50 megabits per second, it's really crisp. It looks like you can do like Hollywood almost, which is what some people want, right? You can stream on YouTube in 4K, and even once it's done, that video is ready for 1 million people to watch on demand in a really nice high bitrate quality. So, I mean, YouTube and Facebook and Zoom are all great, but they have different uses. And Zoom is perfect for trainings. It's perfect. Any last questions before we hop off, everybody?
I have a question.
Sure, shoot.
With the Zoom the Pro plan, are multiple users able to host using that one account, or does everybody have to have their own Pro account?
Everyone must have their own Pro account, but one of the things a lot of people don't know, and it's not a horrible thing, is that you can do up to 300 people as many breakout sessions as you want. So if you own a host account, $15 a month, you could have 10 classrooms of 30 people all breaking out into unique breakout rooms. So it's really powerful and it's really flexible. But if you want to have you have to have your own Zoom professional account at $15 a month to be able to host your own meetings. And you can't host more than one meeting at a time.
That helps. Thanks.
Sure. All right, everybody.
Richard, sorry, if I can get you correctly now, you said we can actually use Zoom as an external, like inputting RTMP, if I'm right?
If you can have the Zoom conference, there's two ways to do RTMP. You can capture the Zoom conference into your video production software and stream it, which is what we're doing now. Or if you have the Zoom webinar license, you can just set up a Zoom webinar and you can stream to YouTube, Facebook, or a custom RTMP destination.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's all coming together, which is what's so interesting right now. And the world needs these tools more than ever before. So it's really exciting. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. We're going to wrap up the show. Tess is going to end our streams right now, but I really enjoyed having you guys here. I'm going to switch my my view here to this so you guys can kind of get a final last piece.